This is Real Talk, the Customer Insights Show with Jenn Vogel. Join Jenn and her guests for this live discussion around topics that will help you understand your customers better. Also available on podcast channels. This live stream is presented to you by Vox Pop Me, the leader in video research. Here's today's live conversation.
Hello, insights professionals, marketers, and everyone who wants to understand their customers better. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Real Talk, the Customer Insights Show. I'm your host, Jenn Vogel. We are live today on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, and the podcast version will be available on your favorite podcast channel. One quick announcement before we get started with today's guest. We are really excited this week to be launching the VIDIs, the Vox Pop Me Customer Appreciation Awards. We're celebrating people, brands, and companies that use video survey software to understand their customers better. The finalists have been announced, and you can now vote for your favorite. So hit the link in the comments, support your friends and peers in the insights industry, and help us determine the winners. So let's get to today's topic. So we've all been in situations where it's hard to get a hold of a company or, a customer service department. And even when we do, we get the sense they aren't really listening to us. So that's the topic we discuss with today's guest. He is a customer service and experience expert, keynote speaker, and New York Times bestselling author, helping companies deliver amazing customer service experiences. I'm joined today by Shep Hyken. Welcome, Shep.
Hey, it is great to be here. Thanks for having me, Jen. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Really excited to have you on today. Thank you for taking the time to have this live chat with us. I know I am a big fan of your content, and I know our audience is, so really excited to get into this discussion with you today. So before we really get into the meat of it, a question that I like to ask all of our guests in the beginning of the show is, what do you think about, who do you think about when you hear the word customer?
Well, I think for me, it's who is buying what it is that we sell, whether we call them customers, clients, guests, patients, members, residents. There's a whole group of words, a plethora of words to describe the people who buy the goods and services that we sell. And one other customer that's often forgotten, and that is the internal customer. And those are the people that we work with who at any given time are dependent upon what we do for them to be able to do their job well, many times for an outside customer.
Absolutely. We just had a conversation earlier today about customer, user, person, human.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, because there is one of my clients is Ace Hardware. And a book that featured Ace throughout the book as a case study. And one of the chapters talked about changing the terminology. And there was one particular Ace Hardware store that referred to their customers as neighbors. So, and every time a customer walked through the door, they would go, "Hey, neighbor." Now, you can't say, "Hey, customer." That doesn't sound right. But neighbor is such a different experience. And I recently tweeted something else about, or something very similar along those lines about, basically when you use the word customer, it's a generic term. It's almost dehumanizing. And you used the word people just a moment ago, Jen. And I think that, if anything, humanizes is when you start to refer to somebody as a person and not, an object of sale.
Sure.
Which would be customer, client, et cetera.
Right. Not a revenue metric.
Yeah. What's your customer numbers? Oh, same, the people numbers, human numbers, whatever.
Right. Totally. Well, this is a great start to the conversation, really about human as opposed to a number. And, we're going to talk today about being accessible, companies being accessible to customers. And so, what does that mean to you? Like making it easier to buy, making it easy to provide feedback? Like, what does it mean for a company to be accessible to a customer?
So are you asking me, or is that a rhetorical question?
Oh, I'm asking.
It sounded like it could be a rhetorical question. Anyway, I'm going to tell you what accessibility is from the standpoint of the customer service and experience. And I jokingly asked you, but I was actually pretty serious when I said, hey, when we're talking about accessibility, we're talking about, ADA accessibility, handicap accessibility, which is another form of it. But let's talk about what it means to the customer from the standpoint of the typical experience. Accessibility could be hours of operation. Are you open when it's convenient to your customers? It could be location. Where are you? Based on, think about Walmart. This is a great stat. And actually, I had it written down and I lost a little piece of paper because I always forget and I want to give it to you accurately. But I wrote a book titled The Convenience Revolution. Actually, have it right here. And the number 6 principle of the 6 convenience principles is accessibility. Walmart is within, at least in North America, is I think 90% of the population is within 10 minutes of a Walmart. Mm-hmm. Now think about that. That's accessible, And what about if you are in a busy city, like let's just say New York City, and I want a cup of coffee, and where's the Starbucks? There's one on almost every corner or almost every block or so. And that's accessibility. In Houston, there's actually a corner where there's a Starbucks behind you, across the street, and diagonal, right there. That's being accessible. Are you a 24/7 operation from the standpoint of customer support? If I need it, do you give me the tools I need? And by the way, that doesn't mean you have to be available on the phone to talk to somebody. I remember late at night, I'm putting together a ping pong table that I bought for my daughter. This is a funny story. It was on sale. I went to the store and I bought it. And when do people put together ping pong tables? Not in the middle of the business day, but in the evenings or on the weekends, right? And so this was a beautiful German model ping pong table. And I only say this because it'll help set up the story. So I open up this box and there's an instruction booklet, but there's so many parts to this ping pong table. Whatever happened to just having a table with 4 legs, but it's 4 legs with these joints because it folds up a certain way, and it's very complicated. Just like you think a very well-engineered German car is designed, same with their ping pong tables. And I tried to understand the instruction manual, and I couldn't. So I called the phone number, and guess what I got? A message saying their hours of operation are between, whatever the hours are, Pacific time. And I thought to myself, well, I'm usually working during those hours. I guess people who are unemployed call them. It's like banker's hours. They're marketing to the unemployed. So I joke about that. But then it said, go to our website or just Google the model number. And I can't remember exactly how they said it in the instructions or of what to say in this. And I did. And sure enough, there was a video. And I Googled the model number and the name, manufacturer, and a video came up on YouTube. And there was a guy with German music behind him, taking every part out of the box, laying it out exactly as it needed to be laid out, and taking me step by step on how to build this ping pong table. And it saved me hours. And you know what? It didn't matter if it was 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. This was available or accessible to me. Mm-hmm. That's a version of accessibility.
Yeah, that's so interesting that I had the same experience earlier this week where I was assembling something in the middle of the night. But I managed to figure it out without YouTube video. It was relatively straightforward, but that is so true that I'm working during the day and I'm not able to call the customer service during the hours where they're open. And so how do my expectations get met? And, as you talk about, having 3 options for coffee shops on one corner or being within 10 minutes of a Walmart, having some things accessible to me raises the bar of the expectations of how accessible everything is to me.
Right. Now, imagine if you use that as not just part of the customer experience, but imagine if you use that as part of a sales value add. So not that long ago, probably 10, 12 years ago, I decided I'm not going to tell you the name of the company, but their initials are Salesforce. So I was converting to a new CRM. And why did I choose Salesforce? And I'll tell you why. At the time, I was talking to the salesperson. I said, now, how accessible are you from the standpoint of support? And they said, well, you're in front of your computer right now. What question can you think of that you might have for your CRM, your customer relationship management software? And I thought about a question I had with the old software that I had. And he goes, just type it into Google. How do I do blank with Salesforce CRM or whatever, And I typed it in and up popped a YouTube video. I go, oh my gosh, but not just one video, not just a video from Salesforce, but videos from customers who had the same problem who put their solution on there. And he told me that almost any question that I might have on how to do something is probably available through an instructional video, that most of the time I won't have to call if I would use that. And I'm thinking, that's great. I mean, it's like having the person sitting over my shoulder telling me exactly what to do. And that's one of the reasons
Yeah, that's amazing that, we do have all of that information really at our fingertips, even if we can't get it directly from the business, which is interesting. So, what do you think are some of the reasons why companies are not accessible to customers, or what barriers do you see?
Sure. The biggest barrier is that they're not customer focused and they really haven't thought this through. And the way to go about this is to journey map the experience for when something goes wrong or a customer has a problem. And when that happens, what do they experience as a customer? And I often will ask a leader, when's the last time you called your company trying to get support or have a question answered? Was it easy? Did you get right through? Did you get put on hold? Did you have to go through a phone tree? Did you have to answer? Like I just recently called for my cable TV. I had a question about it, a real simple question. And of course, you log on, I'm thinking, okay, they're asking me, what is my account number or my phone number? Well, the phone number is easy, right? Put it in there. They go, thank you very much for being a customer. We'll get you right through to the next available agent, which happened pretty quick. But what do you think one of the first questions that was asked of me? What's your account number or phone number? Right. Well, don't you already have that? So to me, those are things that are inconvenient. But if you take a look at that journey that the customer has and recognize what it is that they're experiencing, you'll look for ways to make it easier, more accessible, quicker, faster, convenient, if you will. And I often ask, don't even look at your competitors, although you should look at your competitors. But when you're really looking for great ideas, look outside of your competition, because you've probably already thought about the ideas your competitor is doing that's different from you, and you probably even know what they are. But have you thought about what your favorite companies are that you do business with, and what is it that you love about them? Well, I love this company because they're available 24/7. I love that they make videos available. I love that when I call them, I get a person. I don't have to go through the voice response system, the interactive voice of the IBR. And we start to look at all of these different touch points that we love about companies and some that we don't like about others and even our company, and we start to modify them and change them. And the easy to any question and need that the customer has. And the only way to do that is to understand the journey.
Yeah, that is so interesting the way you framed it. Also, as I think as a marketer, we tend to think a lot about customer journey mapping in terms of customer acquisition and what's the journey that a customer takes to discover your product and become aware and become a loyal fan. But journey mapping the problem and that a customer may have along the way and understanding that how they get into because no experience is completely problem free, right? There's always going to be questions or things that aren't as obvious to customers in any consumption of any sort of product. And really journey mapping the problem and how you get to a solution is, I think, something that people miss often.
And it's, somebody once said, a very famous Jeff Bezos said, we don't need customer service departments because we should be that good. But obviously they still have that because most of the problems that happen really aren't, they're the fault of, I didn't receive my package. Well, we looked and, we see that it was FedEx, UPS, USPS, whatever, that once we gave it to you, it's more or less out of our hands. But now, I mean, they're trying to control the entire experience, which is fine. Even that final mile where it's Amazon Prime trucks delivering to you, but recognizing, hey, we need to make a better experience happen for our customers. But that's what the point is that this guy, Jeff Bezos, is so customer focused. In the room, the rumor is there's always an empty seat at his table, and he goes, that's the customer who's not here. We need to always be thinking about that customer. And that's the key. Always be focused on the customer. And you know what? You might make decisions that aren't necessarily favorable for the customer experience, but at least you're conscious about it and you've given weight to what could happen and the perception and the fallout or the problems that might happen as a result. So at least be aware. Making a decision to raise a price is never going to make a customer happy, but to decide to do it and understanding what's going to happen, what could happen, and maybe how to deal with it if somebody calls and complains. All that's being proactive. And all of the things we're talking about, being, having access to a company, that doesn't happen by accident. It's purposeful thinking. One more quick example of this, and we'll go on. There's an independent, I could just be very generic about this. You've got your major car dealership of a brand that everybody would recognize. And just down the street, you've got the independent repair center. The independent repair center is open from 7 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. They do tires, oil changes, et cetera, et cetera. The dealership is open from 8 in the morning until 5:30 in the evening, okay, or 6 o'clock. And once again, you got to drop your car off. You got to figure out a way to get to work. But with this other one, you can get there at 7. You can get there after work. You can sit and wait. They have a waiting room. By the way, so does the dealership. But this other one's open until 9 or 10 at night. And they're also open on Saturdays. Some of them are even open on Sundays. The point is they're more accessible. And I use that as an example in the book. That accessibility means I don't have to work around their hours. I can work around more convenient hours to me. One of the lead case studies in that chapter on having access was a bank. And the bank recognized typical bankers' hours are 8:30 or 9 o'clock till 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. And the only time most people can get to work or get to the bank to cash their paycheck is to do it during lunch or leave early or set an appointment and have to take a few hours off and have to go talk to the boss because, hey, I need to get a mortgage on my home. I want to go talk to the bank. Well, this bank said, hey, we're going to stay open until at least 6. We're going to have hours that are on Saturday. And they help disrupt the marketplace because of just having a better access.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just an example from my own personal life, and this is probably 100 years ago, my bank started opening satellite branches in the grocery stores. So This might be a regional thing where I live.
We had it in our grocery store too.
Yeah, and those
ironically, the grocery store owned the bank.
Oh, interesting.
Same family, brothers. One had a bank, one had a grocery store. What happens when you go to dinner one night with your brother? No, I don't know. That's how it happened, but true.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but having the grocery store branches open on Saturdays and Sundays and open till 8 o'clock at night, was like a game changer for, people who were wanting to bank during hours where they actually had availability.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. And, I think we do see some great examples of companies like Amazon who have an empty seat for the customer and, what that does for that business, or, the bank who disrupts the, hours of availability. But, what about the other side? Like, what are the risks for companies that are not accessible to their customers?
All right. If I decide I want to buy something, it's in the evening and I'm ready to buy, and I go online, and the only way I can purchase is by talking to somebody in the store. Okay. So by the way, a website is all about accessibility. I'm open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if I have a website with an e-commerce solution on it. But what about the company that says, hey, you've got to call us during the normal business hours. You can get it all set up. You've just lost my business. I think that's the most obvious, is that you risk losing business if you're not accessible to your customers on their terms. So whether it's customer support, whether it's the sales process, and even this is better than nothing. I go online and I put in my request, or I type in my question, and the response comes back, thank you very much. Our hours of operation are whatever. And we promise you a response within 1 hour of us getting in the next morning at 8 o'clock. I'm going to buy into that a little bit more than, sorry, we're not available until 8 to 5 or whatever. At least you're telling me when. And you give, by the way, if you're going to make people wait, let them know how long they got to wait. And then don't be late. Wait, not late. I'm a poet.
That is a great tip. And yeah, I think you're exactly right that, you're going to lose my business if you're not accessible to me in the moment. We talked about this a couple of episodes ago of, brand loyalty is really under attack right now and has been for a while. It's very easy for people to switch brands or to, if you're not available for me to buy from you, then I'm going to go somewhere else where I can buy what I need from someone else, like in an instant.
Right.
The expectation
Do you know where that came
so
from?
high. Where did that come from?
Amazon. The
yeah.
Amazon Nation, the Amazon Nation, I don't know, however you want to say it, but they Amazoned me, I am now able, and Amazon trained us as consumers that we can get it quick. We can even get it within a couple hours. But hey, I remember, think about it. And Amazon, by the way, is a lead case study in the book because they have a place in all 6 of the convenience principles, which are 1, to reduce friction, which all the things we're talking about has that. And reducing friction is within all 6 principles, but some companies make it like their mission to be Uber. I mean, Uber they disrupted their entire industry of taxi cabs and that type of public transportation by just making it so much easier to get somebody to pick you up. You don't have to reach in your pocket to pay when you leave because it's all set up ahead of time, that kind of thing. But you've got reducing friction. You've got using technology, which again might be part of your accessibility strategy. Self-service. Well, that's what Amazon is. They're open 24 hours a day, and you self-serve yourself. If you've got questions about the product, you could probably find the answers down in the frequently asked questions below what the product is, where they have reviews and questions. You've got the subscription model that just makes things happen automatically. Every month I get delivered, or every week, or every quarter, whatever it is. What's number 5? Oh, delivery. We take it to you. And of course, number 6 is access. So some companies have all 6 of these. Some only have 1. And even if all you have is 1, it may be enough to disrupt your competitor. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get market share. We're trying to enhance revenue. And business is competition. Business is a game. It's just like, but it's a game of professional game. It's like professional sports. If we don't perform well, we don't make as much money. We don't make it to the playoffs. We don't make the sale. Whatever you want to call it. It's a metaphor. But at the end of it all, it's not about sports analogies and metaphors. We're not trying to say that. But sales, it's a game. And the game against the other field or the other in another bench, that we compete against, we're trying to get customers. That's the tally. That's the score. That market share is our version of winning, by 2 or 3 runs in a baseball game, a touchdown in a football game, or should I say American football game.
Yeah, that's an important distinction for sure. Well, I feel like we kind of touched on this a little bit already, but I wanted to ask, what would be your tips of how companies or customers, and actually one of the things you touched on earlier that I wanted to comment on is leveraging companies outside of your competitor set and looking at companies that are doing things well. I think this is a great tactic, not just in terms of customer centricity and accessibility, but really in like everything that we do. There's so many great examples of companies doing things well. But what other tips, either expanding on that or beyond that companies can be more accessible?
I'll take you through a process. And actually, I have another book coming out later this year in September. You can't even get to it right now. If it was 3-4 weeks from now, it's titled "I'll Be Back: How to Get Customers to Come Back Again and Again." And one of the areas I address is specifically this. And whether you're talking about having better accessibility or just being more competitive. Let me walk you through the process because it works. Number one, ask yourself a question. Why would and by the way, don't ask yourself by yourself. Get your team around you. Get some of your executives, some people that are on the front line, some people in your support center, even people that just feel like you know and understand what the company is. And you ask, why would someone do business with us over our competition? And you'll get all kinds of interesting answers. The ones I want you to stay away from are generic. Those are the ones that say, oh, we have really good service. Well, they're saying the exact same thing. But is there something really specific and tangible? Now, earlier I said you want to look away from your competitors, but I do want you to look at your competitors anyway, just to get it on paper and formalize it. And then ask yourself, after you've answered this question, ask yourself, is your competition or any of your competitors doing something different that you're not doing? If so, what is it? And consciously, is it something we want to do something like that? Or is it something we don't need to do? We don't think that's appropriate for what we do. But I want you to answer those questions and decide if you're going to do something that you're not doing that they're already doing. I want you to at least make it your own. Don't just copy it. If you can, give some twist on it so it becomes part of your personality. All right. Now, you've got this list and you're starting to develop a list from there. These are ideas that we may want to implement. Now, I want you to go outside of your industry. And I just want you to ask this question. What's my favorite company to do business with? And then ask why. So you list all these different companies. Could be Amazon, could be the restaurant down the street. It could be a shoe repair center that is owned by one guy, and that's the same guy that's been there every day you come in, never takes a vacation, doesn't have a life out. No, I don't know about that, but you get the idea. And you say, these are the companies I love to do business with, and here's why. And be very specific as to why you like them. Amazon, I love them because, you know what I like? The moment I place the order, I get this email that confirms that they received my order. I can't tell you how many times I thought I placed an order with an e-commerce vendor, a brand that you might recognize. And then I realized I never pushed the right button to complete the order, but I thought I had. And a week later, I still don't have my merchandise. They never got my order. So you see, there's that confirmation. Then there's the confirmation that the order is shipped with my tracking information. So now I can find out where it is along its journey. And now Amazon will take a picture of the package leaning against my door. I know it's arrived. Okay, so I love that. Okay, do we do that? No, but we do send things out by mail. Yeah. Well, I think it would be real easy to set up a system that confirms the order, that gives the customer the tracking number. I don't know if we're as sophisticated as being able to leave a picture of the door, but we can track and see when it hits the door, and we'll get notified. And then we can send an email to the client or the customer saying, it's there, so-and-so signed for it, or whatever. And now we've done something pretty close to something we like that we hadn't done before. Makes sense? So who do you love? Why do you love them? And next question is, can we implement, or do we want to implement any of those ideas that we love into our business as well? And then I want you to go back to the very beginning, the first question after you've looked at your competition, assess what they do, can you implement it? Looked at outside the industry, assess what they do, can you implement it? Now that you've decided what you're going to implement, answer that same question. Why should someone do business with me? And you'll be able to add to the reasons why based on that exercise. By the way, you must deliver on what it is you plan to deliver before you can officially say, this is why they are buying from us, not this is why they should buy from us.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that process. It's really tangible. And I think one of the things, as you're thinking about, what's your favorite company and why is that? Why do you like to buy from them? Is such a reminder that, like we were talking about earlier, this idea of customers or consumers, it's not this external group of people. Like we're people too. We consume, we buy, using our own experiences to make some decisions about how to be customer centric in our own businesses, I think is really important.
Yep. And so that's why we try to create, one of my jobs is to take the complicated and make it simple. It's like, well, how do I do this? Well, let me give you a simple, 5-step, 5 questions, answer these. It'll get you on the road to getting this done. Same thing with the convenience principles. Journey map the heck out of your different scenarios. First-time customer, what happens when the customer needs support? Journey map that experience. And look at all the touch points. These are the points where customers interact with us at every level. And it could be people to people. It could be when they receive the product. What does the box look like? How easy is it to open? I just read an article, and I thought it was really funny. Do you think the CEO ever tried to open this blankety blank box? No. If they had, they wouldn't send it to us like this. you know. And so, we look at every interaction and where can we make it better, more convenient, better, a better experience. And that's how you use these interaction points. Don't just do it to learn what your customers experience. Do it to learn what your customers experiencing and then figure out ways to make that experience even better.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to kind of wrap things up, how important in terms of customer centricity and accessibility, how important is it to capture customer insights, to get good feedback and actually listen to that feedback from customers?
Oh boy. So it is. How important is it? Okay.
Rhetorical question.
1 to 10, how about 12? Okay. So,
Sure.
But I think that listening to the insights and saying, hey, this is valuable, it'll help us change our process. I just finished talking to, I did my podcast with a company called Social Survey, and they're actually announcing a name change coming up in about a week or so. Anyway, this is really cool. Their goal is to survey the customer in the moment and act on the data, not just to improve the future, but to deal with that customer right now. And the great example they gave me is you go to a rental car agency and you go in, you talk to the person, you get your keys, and you go to the car. And the moment the engine starts, your phone gets a text. And it's from the rental car company. Hey, number one, are you happy with Jenn who just, got you your car? And number two, we want to make sure, is the car clean to your satisfaction? Now, this is, you just got in the car. And if you say, you know what, this car smells like cigarettes, they can fix that problem before you ever leave the lot and give you another car, as opposed to you later on the next day, it's a memory about, and it's a bad memory. Yeah, my car smelled like cigarettes and I don't smoke and it was rather offensive. There's nothing they can do except say, I'm so sorry. I hope you try us again. Here's a free or discount, whatever it is for the next time. And hopefully the customer comes back. But if you can fix it in the moment, it proves how good you are. It proves how focused you are in their experience. And sometimes fixing it the way you fix it is actually even better than the problem never happening at all. So you see the opportunities there. And I really want people to be thinking about how, listening to the customer isn't just about thanking them for a future. It's about, doing something right now. And if the best you can do is fix something that happened in the past, I think you're still at greater risk of losing that customer than you can in the moment.
That's so important. I feel like, the accessibility of that has changed, right? And
good way to bring it back home. I love that.
Well, because I'm thinking about, I bought a new car and name the car company, but about a month later in the mail, I got like a 25-page written experience survey about the sale. Now, I don't remember what I did a month ago or what my experience was buying that car a month ago. And if I did have any problems, I've already reached out and gotten them solved. So that's such an interesting concept. Like, I'm still in the parking lot. I haven't driven out yet. And I'm already able to give my feedback and get it fixed.
And then, by the way, it's such a simple survey. It's not a 25-question or 25-page survey. 30, you will only take 5 or 10. This is literally a 3 to 5 second response that will allow the dealer or the rental car company to immediately fix it. Imagine you're in a hotel, you check in, and I get up to the room, and 3 minutes into the room, is everything okay with the room? There's no towels. They can fix that right now, without you having to pick up the phone and call down there and maybe talk to the operator who's going to transfer you to the front desk, who's dealing with a person, so they put you on hold until they're done dealing with their guest in front of them.
Yeah, that's so important. Oh my gosh, I could like talk about this stuff for hours. And
So could I, and I do, as a matter of fact.
yeah, it's wonderful. It's really great to kind of hear your perspective on all this and everything that you shared. You said it, like it's your job to kind of simplify it and make it really easy to implement. And I feel that the processes and different ways to shift our thinking can really help our brands, our companies, our listeners' companies actually implement some customer-centric processes and be more accessible to customers and meet those high expectations that customers have today.
Yep. And I'd say in my last thought is you just used the word easy. There's a difference between simple and easy. A lot of what we're talking about is simple to understand, yet might be not so easy to implement. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it and it's not worth the effort, because oftentimes it is. If I'm talking to a small business that has very few employees and we're talking about creating a customer-focused culture, we can turn that culture around in 30 to 90 days. You'll start to see a difference. I'm talking to an executive who's the CEO or president of a company that has 35,000 people. We're going to take 4 to 6 years to accomplish what this company could do in 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yep.
And what's the impact of that?
Simple does not mean easy. Simple is I understand it now.
Yes.
How do we implement?
Yeah, it's a big hill to climb in a lot of cases, but at least having a simple framework to work off of,
bingo,
that's the path forward. Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. We might have to schedule a follow-up because I feel like I have a lot more topics we could cover, but really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us live today. Please rate and review us on your favorite network. Don't forget to share the show with your friends, coworkers, bosses, family, everyone. In the next episode, I will be joined by Brenna Ivy, consumer strategy at Wayfair.